The best business people and marketers anywhere think win-win. And this is really counterintuitive. Inexperienced marketers create win-lose situations, just like we just saw, okay? And all you need to do to get in front of your target audience on the whole island is to create more winning situations, okay? If you can create more winning situations, people will just run to you, which is exactly what we saw the last time I was here. Jesus created winning situations. I'm going to feed you. You're not going to be hungry. I'm going to heal you. Let me meet all of your needs. And then they chase him. He tries to get away from them, and they chase him. That's exactly what will happen here if we create more win-win situations. But that also means you win. Jesus wants to get his message out. He wants them to follow him to some degree. Apparently, they were stalking him, but he wants them to follow him to some degree. Now, so everybody wins here. Now, as we actually continue, I want to invite actually Pastor Andrew up here for a second. And I'm going to give a little demonstration of win-win here. I need a timer. Can I get someone who'll just time for 15 seconds? I got a timer over here, Pastor Frank, thank you. And I need a counter. Would you be our counter?
What do you mean?
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Pastor Andrew and I, we're going to put money on the table for this. Okay, now Pastor Andrew, I'm going to come over here to you, okay? And we're going to go here, kind of like arm wrestling. You guys ever seen arm wrestling? Okay, I picked Pastor Andrew because I think I can beat him, okay? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so in arm wrestling, Pastor Andrew is going to try to get my arm down here. If he gets my arm down here, Pastor Andrew gets $1, okay? So every time he gets my hand down here, he gets $1, okay? Now, if I can get Pastor Andrew's hand down here, then I get $1. And we have 15 seconds. Now, firstly, who's funding this? Pastor Co? Okay, Sister Co's funding, thank you. Okay, so we've got the timer here. Okay, now I want you guys to know that I've never lost at this, okay, ever. And I've done this with some big people. Are you ready for this, Pastor? Okay, all right, and you're counting. You ready? Go, oh. You see that? Look at that. If we work with each other, we actually both win. You guys see that? If this is, you won, we both won, right?
We both won.
And so, okay, so he got 3. You'll notice he got 3, and I was fighting him a little bit. And it took longer to get my hand down. But if we just said win-win, we can actually go way faster. And so instead of him getting $4, we each get like $10. Because both people win in every interaction. Thank you. That's the whole thing. Thank you. Now, this is the same thing that we can do in our business. Now, just as an example, Pastor Andrew was telling me the other day. I'm sure we'll hear more about this. He created a win-win with a local coffee shop. He went out to this coffee shop. Obviously, they're struggling with money. That's a big deal. We have a huge church that at some point will be at Metro. And he went in and he said, hey, I know I've met you guys a couple times. How are things going? And what he worked out was, I would love for every new visitor to have a free coffee at your coffee shop. How do you work that out? Why would I give you free coffee? You're crazy. That's a win-lose. What he said is, I don't like making coffee. I don't have an industrial kitchen. It's more work on me. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. And when we have big events, I want you to come. And you benefit from this, and it saves me time. And what they say, heck yeah, you can have all the free coffee you want. And so now every new visitor at Metro gets a free coffee, and that means that someone gets to take them and build a relationship, connect with them, and then invite them back to church. So this is like a win-win-win. The church wins, the coffee shop wins because they get the promise of business, and they've gotten more business. I know I went in because I hadn't heard of them before we started talking about this. And then the new visitor wins because what do they want? Relationship. And now we got to get out of church, and we just got to be normal people doing normal people things together, right? So that's a win-win. The more win-wins you create, the more effective you will be. Yes? That's great. Yeah, absolutely. And so if you couldn't hear what he said is, in the services, even with tithe, we're not saying sacrifice your money to help us win. We're saying, no, you're actually winning by giving to the Lord. You have eternal rewards for this. You also have rewards right now. You're actually helping real people, right? That's a big win. And there's a need that we have as people to have purpose in our life. And that's a bigger win than money. That's why we do it, right? Another thing that I would just build on that here, I'm building a website right now, a marketing system for a nonprofit, and they help children in Africa avoid HIV, AIDS, hunger, trafficking. They're really involved in particular communities in Nigeria. And as I was doing research on a lot of websites for nonprofits, there's always this donate button, which is good because we at least have the button on the website to get that conversion, right? But I'm not winning if I donate. I'm not winning. I'm just another guy, you're asking for money. I can do this on any website. And how do I create a win for the person donating to the organization I'm working with? So it says, a team of heroes protecting children from trafficking and AIDS and whatever. And it says, join the team. So what's the win? You're with us, you're a hero. You go with them, you're a guy donating, right? So every win we can give them, we want to give them, because it is a win when you help children in Africa. Why is that not a win? But I have to tell them that because they don't know. Now, marketers avoid making assumptions. Now, there's two reasons we don't get the desired action we want. So what do we want? More people at church. Why don't we get it? There are only two reasons. This is the same reason businesses go out of business, because they didn't work. Nonprofits, the same for everyone. The two reasons are, number one, you're talking to the wrong people. So your target audience up there is the incorrect person. So if we're talking to people who have no interest in faith or spirituality at all, well, we're just talking to the wrong people, right? The second reason is we're talking to the right people, but we're meeting the wrong need. We're offering to give them something that they don't want. The guy with the blind man with the back pain, he's like, well, I don't really want that. And you take it back. That's not really that important. And so we're back up here. So we're talking to the wrong people altogether, or we're talking to the right people, but we're meeting the wrong need. Now, here is how marketers avoid making assumptions. We get feedback. And so you can kind of see this I'm saying the same thing in different ways. The assumptions part here is when I create a ministry or a product or a service and I perfect it before I put it out, I'm assuming that I know what my audience wants. But I don't know. Did they tell me? No. I'm just saying, well, if I were them, this is what I would want, but I'm not them. So there's a really, really big difference between what I think my audience wants. There's a big difference between what I think my audience wants and what my audience actually wants. And usually the difference there is big enough to get you absolutely no results. Okay? So we don't want to make assumptions, and we do that by getting feedback. Now, I want to give you an example here, just for the church, okay? Let's say that on a Sunday, we're preaching a sermon, and we'll just go back to the ridiculous one we used last time. Let's say we're getting more theological, and we're talking about Calvinism versus free agency or free will or whatever it is, okay? So we're talking about something, and this is the person, the target audience up here that we got to our church because we went and we connected. And the target audience they're blue-collar men. These are the decision makers in their households. They're working, maybe construction, maybe at the airport, maybe at Waikiki. They have young families, so they're probably, maybe the guys are 25 to 34. They've got some kids, maybe have, a girlfriend or a wife. They're low income, BRAC there, I apologize for the typo, and high cost of living. Now, what's the problem? Are we either speaking to the wrong people, and I'll remind you, they're sitting in your auditorium, or are we giving the right people the wrong information? Because as it turned out, they didn't really register with the sermon. What do you guys think? Are we talking to the correct audience or the wrong audience? Or are we giving them the wrong message? Okay, and I got wrong message. Because what is a message that will actually relate with these people? What's a problem that you can foresee them having? We've got blue-collar, young man, 25 to 34, young family, kids, low income, high cost of living. Okay, financial, right there, okay? Maybe anxiety. Maybe they're feeling anxious. Well, maybe all this stuff's going on. I just lost my job. How am I going to, right? So financial, anxiety, right? Psalms 23 comes to mind. Even though I walk through the valley of death, we need extra faith. Yeah, leading through crisis, how to be a leader. Okay, so these are things that are going to relate with these gentlemen. But if we're speaking a sermon that is unrelated to these topics, they're going to check out. They're going to go somewhere else. Okay, and so the way that we know we're giving the right sermons is through feedback. The way that we know we're offering the right ministries is through feedback. I don't know until I ask them. So in question 3 here on your paper, this one here, which of the 2 problems from the last slide do we have? And we just said, you can write this in if you would like, but this is just, we're talking to the right people. They're sitting in our auditorium, but we're giving them the wrong message. We're offering to meet a need they don't have. Okay? Now, what types of sermons would better fit the audience? Again, we said faith, financial, getting through hard times, leadership. How do we find out what they want? Surveys, polls, Google analytic programs for the tech team over here. Analytic will tell you your target audience on your website. 80% of them are that guy right there. And now you know who you're talking to on your website. Okay, and so we can get all this information and then give them what they want. Why? Because they just told us what they want. And so, let's see here. Before we continue, I want to give you one more example to hammer this home, because I found that these are really abstract and they're hard to wrap your mind around. But once you start doing it, you start getting really good results, and you're like, wait, why did that work? Okay, I want you to imagine, just a little mental example here. Imagine sitting at a table, and there's someone sitting across from you, and you have a lump of clay. You have a lump of clay, and you're blindfolded. And your goal is to make something that the other person will buy for you. And they'll pay as much as they want. They determine the value. So you're blindfolded, and someone says, go, and you start sculpting. If you're doing the ineffective mindset, the ready, aim, fire, you're not asking for feedback, you're trying to perfect it before you give it to them, you're blind. You don't know what you're making. So you're sculpting, and you're like, this is going to be great. This is going to be, I don't know, a sculpture of me. It's going to be wonderful. And you slide it across the table after however long you made it, and you only get to take your blindfold off when they give you feedback, because we don't decide how valuable our services are. The people getting them decide. So when you hand your product, your service across the table to this person, and they look at it and they go, this is horrible. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. That's not good. You didn't get any feedback from them. Not only that, you assumed that they wanted a sculpture of you. Maybe they wanted a sculpture of a dog or a boat. You never asked. So we're totally off base, and it doesn't look good because you were blind. The other side of this, effective marketers, ready, fire, aim, we don't make assumptions. Okay? So I sit down, I've got my blindfold on, I get that clay, and I say, hey, what would you like a sculpture of? And they go, a dog. Great, okay. And then I start sculpting a dog. And then the second that I get anything formed, I'm going to go, okay, how's this dog look? And they're like, no, I don't want a Chihuahua. I want a Doberman. I'm like, okay, great. And I keep going, until they stop giving me feedback. And then I get to take my blindfold off. But even wearing the blindfold, I knew a lot of what they were seeing and what they were wanting, because they decide the value. And when I get to take it off and I slide that across the table, they say, it's a masterpiece. I'll give you everything I own for this. It's going to be the centerpiece of my whole house. Because why? Because it meets their need, because they told you what they wanted. Okay? That's how we avoid assumptions, and that's exactly what we do when we create ministries or products or services or whatever we do. It's not about what we think what people want. It's about what they actually want, and we just need to ask them as quickly as we can. So last question. How can you get feedback from the people in your ministry? So tech team, that's going to be different than a regional pastor, is going to be different from a Bible study leader, something like that. So on your paper, maybe write down some ideas. Can you give a poll? Facebook, polls. It takes you 5 seconds to make one. You can get a ton of information. In a Bible study, I might have 3 questions, a 3-question survey, and I just ask everybody in my Bible study, what do you love about the Bible study? What do you really not like about the Bible study? Please give me your honest feedback. And then, what would you like in the future? All of those changes will tell me what they want, and I will mold that Bible study into exactly what they need. And then they'll come back. Right? Same thing with your church services and everything else. Now,